Why do we keep telling the same old stories? Welcome to Mythic, the podcast for lovers of myth and fantasy who want to live magical and fulfilling lives. I'm your host, Mary C. Kehoe.
And I'm your co-host, Carolina Carter.
And today we are talking about fairy tale retellings. What works, what doesn't, and why should you care? Do you want to start us off?
I think you and I went different directions with these concepts, so I'll obviously start with mine. I think I was thinking about retellings, how we have twisted tales, the villain's perspective, modern retelling. Like for me, that's like Clueless and 10 Things I Hate About You, or She's the Man, the underappreciated She's the Man.
Those are modern retellings of Shakespeare or Jane Austen.
I would argue it's fantasy.
But I would say Shakespeare he retells a lot of myth and fantasy too. So it's a retelling of a retelling.
It's a dream within a dream. Then we have the expanding and the expounding, which, by the way, I'm making up these categories.
I like him.
This is not a literature class. I'm making this up. Expanding and expounding is like when you take a side character and you give them the main character role for your whatever, for your book, for your movie. Circe, the Witch's Heart. I think there's several things done for the Ugly Stepsister. And then there's what's in my mind is like the traditional retelling where you truly are just telling the tale again, like Spindle's End. And maybe you're putting your own zhuzh on it, but it's, princess pricks her finger, falls asleep, wakes up is essentially the theme.
What were your examples for the twisted tales?
Maleficent would be something I would put under that category.
I feel like
there's also,
I was just gonna say all of Disney's. They've done like a series of all the bad guys, but at least in books.
And there's an author who's quite popular on TikTok right now who takes all the Disney villains and makes them sexy. I can't remember her name right now, but like I remember the name for Captain Hook is Hooked. I think she puts them in a modern setting too.
And then there's, of course, the original Wicked.
Oh, Cruella. Yeah, Wicked. Oh, yeah, you said Disney does that. Yeah. A villainous retelling. You're sick of those, aren't you?
Oh, so sick of them. You like them?
I like them.
All of them?
All of them? Oh, I think you and I differed quite a bit. I enjoyed Cruella immensely.
Right. Yeah, we covered that.
Not on the podcast.
Yeah, we did.
Oh, we did?
Yeah.
What episode is this?
30. Welcome to episode 30. It's pretty exciting.
I'll bring an actual toot for our 100th.
Okay.
Tibbs, it's our 30th episode. Say, yay. Okay, and then we have yours, which I think I'm going to speak for you.
Okay. Why don't I speak for me?
No, you can't.
Then this whole podcast is a monologue.
You'll have nothing to say. Well, get out of my way. This train is leaving the station. Should have thought of that before you asked me to be on a podcast. You got me monologuing, you sly dog.
Well, do you have a favorite of your types?
I love a modern retelling movie. I really do. But I think my favorite to read is probably a traditional retelling. I would include Ella Enchanted in that as well, for sure.
Yeah,
where it keeps within the fairy tale parameters, it keeps the rules, it keeps the setting and the atmosphere, and just like gives it new life. The bones are there, and the flesh.
And we're talking about the book Ella Enchanted, not the movie, which did not keep to the
Right.
No, you liked it? Oh.
No, I mean, it grew on me. I think I
It was,
love anything medieval from the early 2000s.
yeah. I
That
feel like
was
it
just a
has it.
moment.
Yeah. I think now I can look back on it fondly. At the time, comparing it to the book, I
Well,
was
yeah,
not a
but
fan.
have you ever been happy going to a movie and comparing it to the book? Mm-mm. Not even
Lord of
Harry
the
Potter.
Rings. I still liked Lord of the Rings.
Okay, we've got one.
But not The Hobbit. I was upset with The Hobbit.
We were all upset, Mary. We were
In
all
fact,
upset.
I defended it longer than you did. You, after the first one,
Movie one, I was out.
you
Well,
were out.
that's because I didn't realize they'd. When I went to see movie one, I didn't realize they'd broken it up into 3 parts. So as we're nearing the end of the movie, I'm like, they're gonna have to speed things up. This is we have a lot of ground to cover in these last 15 minutes. So then when I realized it was 3 parts, that was done.
Yeah, I defended his choices all the way up till the third movie. And then
Wow.
I was more done than anyone.
Hmm.
All right. So, what I was thinking about first, I did two types, and then I I went off into a sidetrack. So, we'll get to the
Mm.
sidetrack in a moment. Yeah, I've been thinking about, so you've got like the literary myth
There's
retellings.
someone at my door. I'm so
Oh,
sorry.
okay.
I'm
No,
so
go
sorry.
ahead.
Hang on 1 second. Okay, that's actually adorable. I work remotely, and every Wednesday we have a team meeting, and everybody eats donuts. And I had
Mhm.
mentioned that the only thing I miss about being in the office is the donuts. So one of my coworkers just Uber Eats a box of donuts to my house so I could have donuts for the meeting. I'm gonna cry. That's so sweet. Ah, okay, sorry. So sorry about that interruption. Back in fairy tales and donuts. Do you want to come over? I've got donuts.
I do. I do want to come over.
Come on over.
So your three types would fit into what I was thinking of as the fantasy fairy tale retellings, which
Mm-hmm.
we can explore in a moment. The other type I was thinking about is more of the literary myth retelling, which I think Cersei probably, some of what you mentioned, like Cersei would kind of, I don't know. I haven't read it yet, so I don't know. Is it literary or fantasy? I feel like I've seen it marketed as both.
It's on my to read list. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I haven't actually read it yet. I
Yeah.
just know
We
that
just
that's what it
know it's
is.
about Cersei.
Mm-hmm.
Which I just heard a YouTuber pronounce Kirke, and I've never heard it pronounced that way. So tell us
This
in the
is
comments.
Sacagawea all over again.
Yeah. Yeah, so with the literary myth retellings, there's one danger I think a lot of them can fall into, which is it feels a little bit like they are fixing them, doing them through a lens of today that makes it better, that I've focused more on the women's voice and that makes this myth now better instead of here is my contribution to this myth and I focused on the woman's point of view or something. It's just and this might not even be the author. It might just come from the marketing of the publishing company. I don't know since I
Mm.
haven't read Cersei yet, so I'm not even talking about that one specifically, but I in all of the marketing I've seen for these, it's always, this new feminist and the comments like and this okay, I'm not going to get into the movie The Odyssey too much because there are literally a million videos about it already. But one of the comments that people who worked on the movie have said is, the a comment about how Homer would feel. I wonder how Homer would feel with all the women point of view that we focus on, which he didn't, kind of thing. And A, I think he did. B, it's kind of missing the point. If you just focus on kind of the gender of the character, you're missing, and this gets into this whole other, this is getting into the sidetrack of where we can head next, but the symbolism and how myth and fairy tale isn't just a story, it's a story that symbolizes something. Everything in it ties to something deeper, and this is true across all cultures. You know, Joseph Campbell spent his whole life's work looking at these patterns and what they mean and how they're recurring patterns throughout the world with these different myths. And I would say the folklore and fairy tale grow out of myths and have the same strands of symbolism. So saying that, you know, the Odyssey doesn't focus enough on women, I think A is ignoring what Homer did with Penelope, which is amazing. How she kept people vying for her favor instead of killing her, and using wit, which is the same thing that Odysseus is doing, is using his wit, and the mirroring of them is important. So it kind of negates that just in one comment, and then also ignores the fact that Odysseus symbolizes our soul. So it doesn't matter that in the book, in the story, Odysseus is male, is a man, because he symbolizes the reader, no matter what gender the reader is. So I think some of these retellings in the literary side, where they're trying to make a point, it feels like, kind of loses some of the depth of the myth.
Mm. Yeah, I can see what you're saying, where you feel like they're almost negating the power that she has by kind of claiming that she didn't have any, and that they're giving her power with their narrative,
Right.
instead of
Yeah.
looking at like, um yeah, that she's been outsmarting every suitor for decades and has been in power for decades.
Mhm.
um it's very interesting. I do remember, like, I get what you're saying and how it feels, just because in my brain, when I'm reading something, I'm so immersed in it that it didn't really occur to me, like reading the Odyssey, to feel like unrepresented by
Mhm.
Odysseus. I think I felt what
Right.
you were saying with like feeling the soul's journey. And it's funny too, because I take no like issue with it when I'm reading older stuff.
Mhm.
I do have a huge problem with it in movies.
Mm.
And I
Mhm.
do
Mhm.
have a really like, I was just reading some interview. Old Hollywood director was talking, and he said the only time a woman should be on screen is if she's naked or dead, and it's better if it's both. So I do understand this like revulsion and revolution against like that, and
Totally.
like
Totally.
wanting women to be represented as human beings. And then it is hard when you have that cross section of people trying to do the right thing, as I'm sure they were in
Oh,
the
yeah.
Odyssey. But then it does, like, it negates this power and this connection, um, that we have to the past.
Right, and I think what you said there is key, where we're taking how women have been mistreated and misrepresented recently and bleeding that out as far as we know, you know?
Right.
Um, and yes, women have been silenced and ignored and, you know, rights taken away for many, many generations, but that doesn't mean that's been our story for all of time and everywhere. You know, there, you know,
Or the only thing interesting about us.
right, or yeah, the only thing to say, you know, in ancient Greece, there were the city states, and women had different amounts of power in the different city states.
Mhm.
Some more, you know, or less. And yeah, I think losing the subtlety of real history turns women into the victim, which isn't helpful. That being said, I think what you're saying with modern stuff, I totally agree with you, and it is hard. Like, I know we talked about this before with the Avengers movie making this obvious, like, girl power moment, which didn't work for me. And I understand it's a reaction to decades of, yeah, women are only seen on screen if they're, talking about a man or talking to a man. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, my critique does not negate any of the problems that have been in storytelling with women. Uh, it's just, I guess don't agree with all of the reactions to it that blanket everything as if it's that one director who said that.
Yeah.
Let's go back and talk to Homer, because his portrayal of women is actually in the books more rounded, more real, in depth than many modern Hollywood directors and screenwriters.
Mm. Right. You know, can I take us off on a really far tangent that has nothing
Do
to do
it.
with what we were just talking about? What I really wanted to see is a purple sea.
Oh yeah, the wine dark sea.
I think that somebody needs to be bold enough to make a wine dark sea because our eyes didn't see blue back then. And so the ocean was actually purple.
I've heard that theory, and I don't know that I believe it.
I don't know. I know I totally believe it. And I went to see a purple sea. I just do it. We couldn't see
Yeah.
blue. And the sky had better be tinged purple. Nobody's
But
been
why
bold
could
enough.
we see purple but not blue when blue is the primary color that creates purple? I guess
I
light
don't
is
know.
different. It just has to do with the way our eyes are. Because
I
it's
didn't
not like paint
question it
mixing.
for a moment. I just wanted what I wanted. I didn't try to figure it out.
Don't take blue away from me in ancient times. I'd be sad.
I know. Sorry, that would be very sad for you to go see a whole movie with no blue.
Yeah. Or think of
Mm.
living in a world without blue.
What about just a day, just for me, so I can see what it'd be like?
Okay, we can do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Back to reality, or not reality.
Back to this reality of
Whatever this
fantasy.
is. Symbolism you were talking about, and the things that matter in the human journey. I was thinking about. Oh, sorry. Did you have something? I was about to
Okay,
launch
go,
into
go, go.
something. I was thinking about fairy tales and why we do retell them, and what are some like things that we come back to in fairy tales. And I was breaking it down in my mind to bargains, debt, um, and how we have these things in our life, but somehow having them in a fantastical setting, I feel like helps us make more sense of it in our own lives. The weight of the magic, the weight of the magic is, I don't know, it helps us process it in our own life. And then I was trying to think about fairy tale rules, and like why they're so important. Like, don't eat the food, don't look
Mm-hmm.
back, don't give anyone your real name. This is all just great life advice. What else? Uh, don't look in the West Wing. There's something I can't put my finger on, but there's something about all of these that feels so important.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I talk a lot about ritual, and I think it's a part of ritual is rules, and these rules with bargains, debts, not giving anyone your real name. It all speaks to something so mystical and whimsical that you almost can't look directly at it. And that's what I feel like fantasy does for me, is that it's like, here's the truth, and you can't look directly at the truth. The only way you can see it is somehow by like seeing it reflected in these stories that we read.
Mm. Yeah, I can see that. It just reminded me of the quote from Spindle's End, where she talks about a curse, and you never take the curse head on. You start to pick at it from the side and find its weak
Mm-hmm.
point. We're just taking the truth from the side, finding it through fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was thinking about folklore and how a lot of the retellings actually lessen the violence.
Mhm.
because in the, in the original Grimm's fairy tales that they collected, they're pretty, pretty strong on punishment.
Yeah.
And I was just reading this book, which I did not bring it, but it is a great one. Nope, it is not here. Well, anyway, I'll skip that part
Mhm.
because I don't want to recommend it without even remembering the name of it. Um, yeah, I was doing research on spiritual symbolism within these fairy tales, and it kind of gets to what you're saying about the truth being folded into folklore or fairy tale because um, I think one of the things that continues to echo through us as readers and is why we retell these stories across the world is because of this symbolism. And like, for instance, and this is not, I did not figure this out. This was something I just read in a book. It's not even online. Um, but I do remember, okay, do you remember the green books, the big green books from the library with
Of course.
folklore? Yeah. Do you remember the one with the seven kids and the wolf?
Mhm.
The goat and the so this in this book she's talking about that fairy tale, and I just got such a like visceral memory of reading the big green book with this story. But it's a story of a mother goat and seven kids, and this wolf comes and he's eating, and he eats six of the kids, and the seventh one hides in a clock, and then the mom and the last kid trick the goat into eating stones instead of the seventh goat, baby goat. And then while he's sleeping, they like cut him open and get all the um or they get all oh that's what they trick him. He doesn't eat the seventh one. They cut him open while he's sleeping. They bring all the other kids get out safe, and they fill his belly with stones and sew him back up. And this author was pointing out how the symbolism of this supposedly a children's story, echoes that of Kronos and eating his children, and then Zeus being the seventh son, the third son, but the seventh child that Gaia hides, and then he tricks Kronos into eating a stone and then kills him. Or they trick him into eating a stone instead of Zeus. Zeus gets strong enough to then kill him, and he, saves all the other gods that he'd eaten.
Mhm.
And so they were talking about this uh, going with, so it's like, so this story about these six, and it's interesting. It's still the seven kids, the seven gods, 7 days of creation. It's this continuing repeating motif which lends or echoes this story of creation and the dying of an age and the coming of a new one, and it goes in depth of like what each thing means, and how the kid hiding in the clock is like hiding outside of time, because when you're inside of a clock, time doesn't exist, because you can't see the clock, you don't know what time is
Mhm.
passing. So it's this idea of this seed for the new age hides, is kept outside of time while the old age is going, and then it brings in, so then that seed comes and brings in the next age, and it's
Mm.
this continuous cycle. And that's why, and so she was bringing up how it's not just seen in Greek mythology, and the 7 days of creation, and bringing up these different aspects that all have similar symbolism in them. And
Mhm.
so I think that's one of the reasons, even if we don't recognize the symbolism consciously, there's something that speaks to maybe the subconscious that feels that depth, and that even though we're just reading um, a fantasy story, a story about magic, there is something that's echoing a deeper reality that myths talk about that humans have been creating since the beginning.
This was a pretty resounding men at arms. And then last week I was confused by the 4X's because I'm not very smart. But Clockwork Liar responded, 4X's is the name of the last continent, and it's important to
Mhm.
note that smart in this case just means have read this series of books so many times that it may actually be a disorder. Thank you. That's very nice. For example, now I have to reread Men at Arms. Fair enough. Tilly Mint
Yay.
said, "This one's easy, Men at Arms." Well, you guys are just
Oh, nice.
wonderful. Okay.
I know. You always get on my case about not finishing series, and now I'm going to start to get on your case about catching up on all the Discworld books.
Well, Pumpkin, I've had a lot to read this year.
I don't know why.
Alrighty. How do you do this? It's very secret.
For those listening, Caroline is about to read The Discworld Delight.
For those listening, Caroline is about to read for the first time
in her life.
in her life. The figure faded. He nodded. Of course, there'd been a mistake. Anyone could see there'd been a mistake. He'd known all along there'd been a mistake. What is it?
So to be fair, I have read plenty of fairy tale retellings that were quite enjoyable that don't have this echoey feel. But I will say I don't reread those. You know, they're the ones that are just a fun, quick retelling. Oh, that was fun. I move on. I think I read more retellings than you do. But I think the ones that I reread are the ones that hold a little bit of this feeling from the original stories. And it's almost like if the fairy tale was a taste, like a meal or a drink or something, it's like the ones I reread have a little bit of the like pungent or bitterness still in it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So one of those would be Kate Stradling's her retelling of The Little Mermaid, which I've read her what she wrote about writing it, and she was thinking about the original story of Hans Christian Andersen and how thinking about that ending and how with all the retellings the ending is always, it gets changed. And she was thinking about, well, there's got to be a reason for that ending. Why did he end it that way? What was the author's reason for doing it? And so she didn't write the story until she found her reason and how she would do it. And I really like that one. That's one I reread a lot.
Yeah, put that one in the comments. I want to read that.
I'll put it in
on our
bookshop list.
bookshop list. Support small bookshops, support indie authors.
One more time I'd like to talk about is, it's not exactly a retelling, but it's where the author weaves in folklore in and around the story to the point where it feels like it's adding to the mythos. So I'd say the Dark is Rising series, which we've read, and we're about to read the last one. That one plus Kipling's Puckapook's Hill and Rewards and Fairies does this really well. I think there's other fantasy books that do this where it kind of references fairy tales. But I'm trying to think of ones that do it to such an extent that it feels like baked into the world, that you kind of then remember it as it's part of the folklore. This one doesn't do that. One that does not do this at all. But I will say, Sarah J. Maas's first book in The Court of Thorns and Roses it's like a light retelling, and then it goes way, way different.
Right.
But
Yes.
she mixes together, so she's got a little bit of Beauty and the Beast in there, but also the Scottish tale of Tam Lin,
Mm-hmm.
which then obviously she takes in a different direction. But that was I was excited when I was first reading. I was like, Tam Lin, I know who that is. Like, this is so
Mm-hmm.
cool. And it's not just the name, which would have disappointed me. She does have things in there that coincide with that tale too. So
Yeah, I think that is a really a true art form when when authors are able to weave in these little strings to our past and our understanding of myth and fairy tale, and then create something new as well, where you're like
mhm.
excited and you recognize it and you get the joy of reading something new. If you're only listening to this podcast, it's very important that you know that I talk a lot with my hands. That would have been a much more profound statement if you could have seen what I was doing with my hands.
That's the title of your autobiography.
If you could have only seen what I was doing with my hands. Well, you had talked, I guess, just to bring it back to, because we will be finishing up the One Dark Window duology next week. I'm very excited. Finishing with Two Twisted Crowns. You had talked about fairy tales, and I think, I don't know if you've used it on this podcast, but in text form, you talked about like playing in the same sandbox.
Yes, I had that in my notes, but I hadn't said it out loud. The fantasy writers, instead of trying to make a point that some other modern authors, whatever that point is, um, I feel like some modern authors use myth to make a point about a social criticism, or a social, a point about our world, which is fine. And
Right.
that's what they're doing. Whereas I feel like the fantasy authors are just reveling in getting to play in a sandbox that has been, created through the ages.
And I think that's what I've been really enjoying about reading this duology is it's playing it very straight. This is not like a deconstructed fairy tale. This is, it has the rules, it has the bargains, it has the payment, it has, or the debt, as I was saying earlier. Um, so there's something very familiar about it and totally new. Where
Mm-hmm.
I think I feel a little bit like a little kid again, like reading fairy tales, and I've been
Mm.
really enjoying it.
Yeah, I think that's part of why w- so many of us do love these retellings, is because there's that sense of familiarity. And the more that they bring in the structure of a fairy tale, the more we may be able to enjoy it as we enjoyed things as kids, which can often be a little bit more, I don't know, honest, easier.
Yeah, you settle into it. So, Mary, what was your spark of the week?
I remember walking and thinking, this is your spark of the week. You got to remember this.
Mm-hmm.
And now I can't remember what it was, but it was really fun and nice.
Oh, sounds beautiful.
Yeah, I really felt happy in that moment.
See, this is why we do this, because
Yeah,
otherwise these moments pass us by and you
that's
think, oh, I
true.
didn't have a great week, but you did.
But I did. If only I knew what it was. That one is gone for the moment, but it was really nice. I was very happy.
Aw.
um, but I do have another one. Maybe the first one will come back to me. But this one is the rain last night. It was so much fun and cool, and so it's been super hot here for the past 3 days, and the thunder clap, the thunder clouds were rolling in, and I went inside, and then it started raining, and um, just I don't know, just the feeling of rain coming in, especially when it's been so hot and dry, and how much like the ground is just so happy. It feels like it's a we humans have been thanking the gods for rain for our entire existence, and it still feels the exact same way when you just feel that rain coming. You walk outside, and I was just so grateful for it, and it was a beautiful thing. And then it rained really hard, and that was really fun. We were
Mm.
having to try to collect some of the water that was pooling up around the house.
Oh yeah. That was mine as well. Just a good traditional summer thunderstorm rolling
Yeah.
in is so wonderful. I had a bachelorette party over the weekend. One of the things, just like these moments that, and this is what, again, I love tradition and ritual, but and this one is funny because some traditions I don't love. Okay, get to the point, Carolina. But this one made me laugh because it was so human. Um, I think I said to someone on the boat, like, this is how religions get started. Because they had surprised her. They brought a blow up doll on our rafting trip. There was nothing inappropriate. It was not like,
Yeah.
it was, as far as blow up dolls go, this one's pretty tame. And they put clothes on him.
Uh-huh.
But the bride was wearing a veil, and so people could tell it was like a bachelorette party. And when
Uh-huh.
we would pass a boat, they would hold up the blow up doll, and every single time the other boat would like clap and cheer, and it was just like hilarious. It just like felt like a primitive people going down the river with our statue and like lifting it up, and people would praise the statue, and then we'd put it down. But like every single boat would just be like, wow. It's like it just made me feel so deeply and utterly human in a really good way.
Yeah. Oh, that's really nice. There is something about being on the river that I've noticed, and maybe this isn't for every river, but our river at least.
Mhm.
There's um the interaction between people is it's a different level. It feels more human, and it's like you kind of strip away some of the defenses of modern day life, and you're just on the river
It's like we are
having
all here
genuine
to have
interactions.
fun.
Yeah.
Let no one forget this.
Yeah. And maybe it's, because you're moving more slowly. I don't know. You kind of, it keys you into something else, a different
Yeah.
pace of life where you can take time to, cheer on another boat.
Yeah. Okay, Mary, we are getting very close to launch time of your Kickstarter where people can directly buy your book from you. If you don't know, Mary wrote a book, and it's the first of a trilogy.
$4.
Oh my, a quadrupede.
Yeah, there's a word
We'll
for
work on that.
it. Quartet? No,
A
that's music.
quartet. Oh, I got really excited. Anyway, Mary's first of 4 books is coming out this summer, and we are counting down the days to our Kickstarter launch where you can buy directly from her. If you've listened to this podcast and you think, maybe I would like what she wrote, maybe not, don't worry. She wrote a free short story that it belongs in the same world. You can download it for free from her website. There is a link in the bio of wherever you're listening or watching, and sign up for the Kickstarter. It's free. It just notifies you when we've gone live.
I can tell you right now that I've decided on a date. So we're making it official. Oh,
That's our drum
that's a,
roll.
that's a very nice drum roll. All right. August 29th is
August
when
29th.
it will be launching.
The moon is in the 2nd house, and Mercury aligns with Mars, and Breaking Inlands will be launched.
Woohoo! I'm very, very excited. I've been talking with the printer and one of the vendors who will be making some special editions for certain levels. Like everyone I'm sourcing things from are all in the United States. Most of them are all pretty small businesses. So very excited to be. You're not only supporting an indie author, it's also all independent businesses. So I'm very excited for that.
That's awesome.
And with that, we are so grateful to be spiraling through the universe with all of you. It's not always easy, but no good story ever is.